Yo, what's up guys, it's Uber, except today, I'm an anime girl. A sponsored anime girl at that. Disclaimer. Like many great stories, this one starts in a train. We assume the role of Yen, an exoplanet investigator from Earth, taking our first steps in the world of Elindo. Fate disguises itself as tragedy when some unexpected major vibrations cause a slight disturbance for everyone on the train, yeeting me out the window at Mach 5 speed, to arrive with haste in front of my destined companion and counterpart Vi 3, a princess and local inhabitant of this world. Now, because the publisher, in quotations, my employer, have expressed their interest in a serious review, I have graciously storyboarded away 95% of this segment. I'll be using only 30 seconds to talk about dating them. Okay, so here we go. This is the perfect set of yin-yang GFs. I elaborate. One is easygoing, lighthearted, loving, talkative, a team player, good protector, good listener, thinks logically, you know? Just brightens the room. Also, she's the perfect chef. Always ready to cook up a 3-course meal to keep your whole party overpowered. The other is more quiet, more intimidating, loves killing. There's something called main character plot armor, and Yan truly doesn't fuck around. The impulse to casually play with a camera during the end of the universe suggests an absolutely unwavering mentality. I'm not sure that she is capable of feeling empathy, but fundamentally, I'm pretty sure you don't need that emotion to kill a god. I rest my case. When I first started playing Ex Astris, I never expected that I'd become so addicted as to spending 80% of my functional production time for this video to complete all 3 acts, functionally leaving me with 2 days to edit this project. But I think that in and of itself actually speaks volumes as to how much I genuinely like playing this game. Normally, when I get paid a ludicrous sum of money to promote a mobile game, I expect a pay-to-win gacha game with no substance. Thing is, you see, I didn't do my research. I would never read a contract, I just signed them. So I was a little bit surprised to find an extensively min-maxable, extremely combat-centric hybrid RPG in a downright biblical setting that really expands. Look, this is how they get you. Mission 1, gather berries and talk to the station master. Mission 17, extinguish the sun. In the beginning, combat's like, oh, I'll just press some buttons. Cool, yeah. Oh, look at him go. It's yeah. Cool. Then in due time, you understand the need for a more advanced combo. Hit him with a blue blah blah blah, skibbity blah, yes, you see what he did into the airborne, pick them back up, slam them down, bullet time, hold up. Okay, I will just dodge. Can I just ooh, I actually dodged that one. Hit him with the dog grenade.
Wow, 这个白色椅子真别致。
Act 1. The Shadowed Sun. At first, we're placed into a world that seems to flow in perfect harmony. You almost feel a sense of security as you trek through vibrant fields of grass as far as the eye can see. Everything seems normal. The station master graciously greets you, a humble, kind old man, who parts ways with our new best friend. He also provides us with the coach, our main mode of transportation. It's an all-in-one experience where you can sleep, cook, navigate, and because the game features simulated travel time, you can also just chill out and feel the vibe. The research station is serene. People have problems for you to solve, but it doesn't seem ultimately urgent. If you die at this stage of the game, I would make the argument that you're just bad at video games. Here we're also introduced to a couple systems. There are attacks that can be blocked by anyone, red attacks that require a red defense, and blue attacks that require a blue defense. If you properly blue parry an attack, it also massively chunks the balance meter. If broken, you'll enter Hyper Time, where you get to reasonably defend yourself 60 times in a row. Furthermore, once you've completely depleted someone of Astrum, you must push even further into the overkill meter, allegedly for the rewards. Truthfully, just because you can. At our disposal, we also got epitaphs. They're relics that you can charge up and use throughout battle. There's also an ultimate meter. I didn't notice this for the first 10 hours. More on that later. Each character has their own conjugation panel. By braiding Layla keys, you can achieve different effects. To begin with, these just seem like a nice little stat boost, but later on they become extremely relevant. Let's talk about the story. Trouble arises when it turns out a great celestial being is actually this man's daughter that was astromorphed into a trigonite. Understandably, he's pissed. Unfortunately, that means he's gonna destroy the ecosystem. This emergency led us to the Full-Tide Singularity Research Facility, where we meet our first merchant. One thing to note about the shops in this game is that a lot of these things are actually extremely useful. I didn't anticipate this, so I ignored them at first. But one little item can truly make the difference between a 4-hour hell grind and a 4-hour hell grind that you actually progress through at the end because you had a Vitality Amber. But that's neither here nor there. With my unbridled intelligence, I solve puzzles and acquire the right Layla key to drain the lower levels. I systematically make my way through the facility until we encounter Hyacinth once more, in her primordial form no less. ASAP, we obliterate her with magnetism. We fight our way through the lower levels and finally emerge out. It's time to fight Hearth. How dare he protect his daughter? We gotta kill her for the climate. This boss fight is also where the game stops holding your hand, saying, oh, you're not a babby anymore. It's not honk shoe, me, nap time. It's time to wake up. And every time you're caught slacking, you get to feel what he's packing. I had to try a myriad of strategies to somehow blindly look past the glaring ultimate ability button that says cast. In this time, I stubbornly refuse to understand the skill setup. I pay no attention to the order of abilities, and when I change between waveform and particle form, I do so because it looks cool. And I pretty much psychopathically smart this boss fight by just getting extremely consistent at dodging, which is a skill you'll need and a strategy that can take you surprisingly far. I had to try many times to really get his moveset down, but eventually I got to savor the aroma of a delicious dub, seasoned with actually getting some pretty nasty combos in along the way. To begin with, Hearth barely seemed like a villain. You can understand his motivations, but then your perspective changes when he is truly cemented as the villain, when it turns out that he is merely ruled by his own attachment. Linked to the Trigonite by blood, he bends it to his will. I assumed he wants to set his daughter free like he said, but I calls him like I sees him. This is definitely villain behavior. For such an occasion, we kill it with magnetism. And if magnetism fails, it's a good thing that nice woman from the lab is secretly also an ion cannon. That comes in super handy. I need not say it, but obviously Umfi joins the squad. Slay. Act 2, The Dauntless Voyage. Here we are, having succeeded extensively, reveling in the peace following our victory. We get but nay a single moment of tranquil bliss before being ass-blasted by a Shadarish woman. Which sounds great, but I'm not talking about pegging. This is a fucking reprehensible act of terror I'm talking about, okay? Bad behavior. Never do this, alright? Looking at the damage I was dealing, I felt discouraged, to say the least. Damn. Should have done more side quests. But luckily for me, you are actually supposed to lose this fight. Yo, what's up, sis? Long time no see. Oh my god, bro. Our party level is now also a lot higher, which means we get a lot more freedom to experiment. With more action points comes more violence, and with further access down the skill tree comes a lot more confusion. Combat generally also just gets more challenging from here on out. There's already a lot more red blocks, and the game slowly starts admitting that the dodges I've been pulling off were actually the intro tutorial. Excellent. He's gonna jump here. He's gonna jump for sure. Oh, he's gonna dash. He dashes here. Fuck! As a very visual content creator, I think it's disingenuous to ignore just how beautiful this game is. Everywhere you go, the idle experience is still captivating. This makes the world feel a lot more alive. Very few games have an environment where I will literally stop progressing just to experience it.
祝福之歌。
And that is knowing full well that the combat is by far the best looking part of the game. If you're like me, that is to say, not an epileptic, then congratulations, my friend. You could go to a Psytrance gig and survive. Also, you're probably the type of person who would devour the visual spectacle, and I can only recommend that you do so. Ex Astris is available right now on iOS and the Google Play Store. Pause. Furthermore, I must inform you of this limited time offer. If you get in before March 12th, you can partake in the Ex Astris Arknights crossover event. Why look good when you can look great? Head over to the event page and link it to your Griftline account for access to the crossover attire. And unpause. Now before you get up in arms about a $10 price tag, please consider the alternative. An unfinished game that's not properly calibrated, primarily structured around you paying 5 times that to progress at maybe half the pace, just so you can arrive at unfinished content. Another debate one. I will admit I lost the plot. I have no idea what happened in the story for Act 2. So instead I'd like to give you my own observations. We come across an earth toilet, mesmerized by the discovery of this exquisite luxury chair. Umfi tells us why Elindish people don't need such a contraption, because they can just burn away all their excess energy. Which really makes me wonder. What came first, the shit or the butthole? I mean, biologically, is that the only function? I don't know. I'm not a fucking scientist or a doctor. I don't know. Pondering this concept put me in a philosophical trance. But with the aid of modern technology, I didn't have to dwell on it and could luckily just move on with my life. This is where our protagonists reach the trade zone, a much needed breather in between challenging sections. We get to procure whatever wares are being peddled and generally upgrade our whole setup. Crafting different Layla keys put me onto the fact that managing my materials and exploring beyond the linear path is worth doing. And you get punished for ignoring it, which I like. One thing that ruins games for me is when the microeconomy of gatherables is unsatisfying or just outright poorly implemented. This is one of the things that Ex Astris does extremely well, making your little decisions important, and I have the perfect example to show what I mean. Let's say you come upon an unimposing vending machine. As the player, I feel like my decision here is not really gonna matter, so I put in no money, click a random bag and kick the machine. That was apparently the right combination for a jackpot. What I got was the Galactic Masala, a game-breaking function disguised as a cooking ingredient. It lets us whip up the fried licosphere, which makes Yan feel better. At the time, I just did it to make her feel better. Looking back at it now, I can see that she's an anime girl in a video game and not real. But at the time, I wanted her to feel better, okay? What do you want from me? Let me tell you, not being depressed is extremely strong in this game. You no longer have to time this red circle. Banger! This isn't just convenient, it's sexy, because your damage output is primarily limited by the amount of actions you can take. During hyper time, your most spammable combo is oftentimes the most devastating, because you're on a timer, eliminating the constant downtime on your main damage dealer, who grows more violent the more hits you do in a turn, is a banging gamer move. A gambit that I will personally co-sign on all fronts. I was riding a wave of ecstasy. The thrill of battle had never been greater. I was of the foolish belief that I had reached my final form, so it was a reality-shattering moment to immediately thereafter encounter Starling, a boss that took me roughly 4 hours to beat. I was even more confused because I accidentally skipped the cutscene leading up to this, so the situation of which I was becoming aware had only been described to me as an emergency, which it most certainly was. Because I beat Starling in a board game, after which she flipped the table and disputed the loss by attempting to kill me in armed combat, I get to indulge all of you in peak Danish culture. Please, enjoy one of my favorite Ronicky comedy clips, which I've been sitting on for 16 years.
Ja, her fortsætter vi. Ja,
8-3.
Biverborg går tydeligvis nervøs. Helt ude.
godt træk!
Han får den hele op i hovedet. Nej, hvad sker der der? Lad os lige få den i replay. Han når slet ikke at se noget jo.
Og der, højrefløjen.
Ej, hvor er det godt for højrefløjen, det der. Og lige op i hovedet.
Thank you. I think you're all better people for having seen that. Now, to cut a very long story short, I optimized down to the fucking cellular level, only to end up in a situation where I'm not even sure I can win. I went through stages of grief I didn't know existed. The victim mentality stage, where I fully believe there's some pay-to-win element I missed, and this is about as far as I can go without buying in-game currency. The self-blamer stage, where I just think, okay, I'm not good enough, I should have done more side quests, I'm just not good at these types of games. It was about an hour into this endeavor that I was beamed with divine knowledge, pushing me into the realization of a lifetime. Oh my god. I'm a huge fucking idiot. Then imagine how dumb I felt when I found out that I was still nowhere near victory, even with my newfound weapon of mass destruction. For 3 more hours, I min-maxed down to the aforementioned cellular level until I had reached atomically perfect gameplay. Please, I beg of you, let me elaborate. I struggled so you could see how this fight is supposed to be played. On the first turn, you can actually break her balance meter with an optimal combo into a special attack. On turn 2, Starling readies the nuke, so it's always a barrier epitaph into resetting her balance meter. Huge. For the rest of the fight, I memorized all the attacks on every turn. Not because I couldn't dodge them on impulse, but to implement a strategy of which attacks to blue block so I can enter hyper time on my turn and on my terms. By the way, with 0 vitality embers, I had to dodge certain attacks. It's a very unfortunate situation if I get hit. My skill rotation factors in that I have bestie heal slot spec. I need the correct order and precise timing of my abilities to get that extra hit in. This was definitely my most excruciating attempt. By far the closest I'd gotten, but with my current skill setup, Vi 3 wasn't exactly a main character. This is definitely the saddest balance break of all time. I think I dealt less damage than I took emotionally. Seeing the health bar that low, and knowing that I would have to do all that shit again, only to end up in exactly the same situation, but slightly closer. And just knowing that you don't have enough, just knowing you don't have that dog in you, oh. I have at this point completely severed my connection to the idea of resetting to a prior save and getting stronger. This is the Twilight Zone, and this is where gaming happens. Funniest part? Not even the last boss of this act. So can you really blame me for turning the rest of it into a montage instead of explaining 3 spires? No, you really can't blame me. And with that, we've boarded the Dauntless and are prepared to take on Lamb, our companion's very own brother and final boss of the Dauntless Voyage. How do we get here? I haven't the faintest idea. All I know is my 4-hour hell grind turned me into a demon at this game. I started absolutely skanking after my time in the Shadarish time chamber. So whilst I'd love to stick around and appreciate that this stage of the game is basically a consequence-free DMT trip, I am on a time constraint and I must act with haste. This is my favorite boss fight in the game. Like previously stated, I love when a game absolutely violates me. It makes you really sit down and think, am I this bad or is there something I'm missing? To begin with, I can see that these dudes apply buffs and Lamb has more stacks the longer they stay alive. So obviously I focus them first. After a couple different rendezvous with the learning experience, I open the status tab and make an important discovery. These stacks don't just make him deal more damage, they also make him take more damage. Knowing this, I decide to play the boss fight like a glass cannon at max stacks. I'll do more damage this way, have my special up for when he joins the fight, and can just dodge every attack with my certified world star gamer skills. By the way, this is where my late game fantasy started becoming a reality. My combo is lethal and designed around things I have read. For example, the last hit of this move will hit them even if they're not airborne. But if you catch them in the air, you just get so much more violence, and we love that. After a good tough fight, it's always a worrying sign when their sword starts picking up the pieces. It almost makes you think, why would it be doing that after I've defeated him? Aw, shit. Here we go again. Except without the stacks. I got an insanely good turn-in on him, where I maxed out the balance break into Yan's ult. This is when I knew victory was on the horizon. I do what the kids call yeeting, which leads to a little bit of skeeting, and finally transcends into a whole lot of keeling. Now, just because I didn't want to stress you out, I withheld the information that this entire time, the Dauntless has actually been crashing towards Elindo at terminal velocity. And sort of regardless of this boss fight, we're all about to die horribly. That is until Lamb exudes a final act of redemption, pushing us all off the ship, somehow across time and space, into the mystical world of Shadara. Act 3. The Overturned Nation. We awake confused and scattered from our comrades in a dark, snowy landscape. They intentionally made this section confusing. When looking for my wife, I begin to think that I'm lost. I already went past this part and now I'm going through it again. It's almost like I'm being taunted by the developers. When a game is frustrating because it's poorly made, it's just aggravating. But when a game fucks with you by design, it invokes a different sensation. A notion of, if I let this get to me, they win. It conjures up the flame of ambition within the stubborn gamer. Every time we pass through, this dog gets a little closer, until eventually it barks at us, suddenly freeing us from the loop. This finally reunites us with Vi 3 and Manganese, after which we take the zipline of destiny. Here we get a good glance at the Shadarish sun, and I really don't understand how our coach made it here, but we take those. I was actually gonna stop after Act 2 and just start making this video, but I'm a sucker for mysterious intrigue. You put a destination on my map that's just question marks, I will go there, cause I need to know, okay? We make our way to the gates of a corrupted Shadara, where our party's ambushed by demonic symbionts. It's always nice returning to a regular difficulty after a strenuous boss fight. Keep your senses sharp with a little bit of target practice. Like, holy fuck, man, I'm low-key pumping damagings, man! We barely escape the seemingly infinitely spawning symbionts with just a scrape. Shout out to this boy who told me to avoid the mindless ghouls. He's apparently been standing here for eons, waiting for our arrival, just so he could humbly request that we stop Astero from destroying the Layla, for which we'll need to extinguish the sun. That's one of my favorite activities. We must push on. On our way to the Forge of the Smiths, we encounter Juan. Finally, I get to actually buy the Galactic Masala. Game changer. We enter the Forge and now have to solve a riddle. Throughout our journey, we've been given bits and pieces of information on how to forge correctly. Luckily, you don't have to remember these, because I don't. There's 3 actions you can take: mixing, grinding, and quelching. And this is what we know. Do not grind after quelching. This will destroy the material. Shaved ore can only be added last, and rough ore must be quenched to remove impurities from it. So first, you grind the polished ore, then quench the rough ore and mix it with the shaved ore. I definitely got this on my first attempt, okay? Our next step is to get to the cooling box. Along the way, Wraith combat intensifies as these bad Pendeos just won't stop causing trouble. Luckily, I'm an anti-troublemaker with a taste for blood and a passion for vengeance. We install the bearings and begin the cooling process, after which we extinguish the fucking sun. Then I strayed off the intended path and came upon the dog from earlier, who very creepily asks us to free them from their torment. I decide to let the inner Samaritan get the best of me and undertake one side quest, the perfect amount. I just wanted to see if there was anything worth coming for, so a room of treasure and a cluster explosive epitaph was definitely a nice icing on the cake that is freeing the tormented souls. Ah, whatever, it's probably not that good anyways. It slaps. Okay, I'm upgrading that fully. Speaking of upgrading fully, out of deep care and understanding for my viewers with OCD, I have purposefully not shown you all the incomplete Layla key setups I had to run throughout. Here, for the ending, you finally get to see me put the hexagon in the hexagon. Reaching party level 9 also grants us the final nudge on the skill tree, and I have purchased enough recipes to be a culinary extremist. I think it's time. I think I'm ready. We go past the point of no return and traverse into the pocket dimension beneath the forge. You know, when the landscape looks like this, you're about to either provide or receive one hell of an ass whooping. Q Astero. Don't you just hate it when you extinguish the sun and then someone reignites it to destroy everything else and become the only sun? It just seems so counterproductive to my efforts. But then again, Astero really isn't on my side. Something I found out the hard way. That really pissed me off, to a point of needing to take my frustrations out on someone else. So I methodically destroy this custard with ease, is what I said in phase 1. Then you arrive at the fake fight. I've been hoarding vitality embers. My combo is atomically perfect, and I still think dodging all this shit is extremely hard, especially for me. My only regret is playing this game on an emulator to record this video. The controls are honestly perfect for mobile, but clicking here to switch characters and then clicking here to block is demanding a monumental amount of APM from me. But I am what is in Fables and Mythos described as a true gamer. Carpal tunnel ain't nothing to me, man. I run this shit. I don't know why I assumed there to only be 2 phases when there were signs all along. 3 spires, 3 laps of the Ghost Dog Labyrinth, 3 acts, 3 characters in combat, 3 triangles down here on the statue, 3 dogs. It's like they're trying to tell us something. It's like they're saying this is where the real fight begins. This is where gaming happens. Ex Astris was a game I enjoyed way more than I thought I would. The combat, which is the primary thing you do, is insanely reactive. This element where you get to play on your opponent's turn is super satisfying, and there's a real strategic element to how you approach the spec of each character. I'm surprised mobile games have come this far. It's a complete game with a better story than Elden Ring and way better combat than League of Legends. I rest my case. My motherfucking case at that. Bitch.